I think it's important to talk about the timing of when you're putting your tree stands out and how you're setting up for that hunt. You know, there's a lot of thought that, well, we need to do this in April, May, June, and I kind of go along with that a little bit. You want to get those stands out there, let the deer get used to them a little bit. But to me, it's not the stand that the deer need to get used to, unless it's something very obtrusive and large and stinky for whatever reason. Maybe like a big old wood platform stand. I'd advise making those if you're gonna, I'd advise not making one of those, but if you do, I'd advise making those as early as possible so deer can get used to them, maybe paint them up, hide them in. They always have to be hidden. And that's where a commercial tree stand, like we use the family tradition stands, they blend in. They're a part of the woods. I just don't think deer need to get used to the actual stand, but they need to get used to the activity that takes place to get that stand installed in the area, and especially as it relates to clearing shooting lanes. We're looking at a stand location right now. This is a new one for us this year, and I'm going to talk about how we're putting this in and why and where, and the timing of what we're going to look at this year so that we can plan efficiently. And it's kind of like you go through those phases. That's why I developed the monthly deer chore list and what to do on a monthly basis, because there's certain things that we do every month, and that's how I logically can keep everything in order with traveling 140 nights on the road, putting out 208 videos, finishing a book, a couple web classes this year. There's always something going on, and answering at least 8,000 to 10,000 of your social media comments. That's a big goal of mine every year, and I hit that last year. In the last few years actually, and I want to keep that going, but I want to try to help, and I think I often can help you guys the most out here if I just talk about what I'm doing, you know, as a professional in this whitetail hunting industry, what I have to do to keep on track. Stand location. We have an interesting one right here. This is a nice brushy red cedar. Great cover. I love the red cedars out here. It's open to the ag fields out here. We have a strip of corn. We have a food plot that starts about 100 yards away over there. This is an ideal stand location because we have a big, brushy, almost fence row of honeysuckle behind us. So we have a lot of vegetation in this area. We have goldenrod popping up, lots of briars, but there's a hidden trail right down the hill back there. Kermit, the buck I shot last year, used this trail a lot. This trail goes over to a trail cam we have right over here in another stand location in the woods. That one we need with an opposite wind. We actually are getting that wind right now. It's blowing off the fields, and over that ridge we can use that other stand. So we wanted a stand that can complement this movement, but is not very invasive. So we've built this stand up a lot. We're taking those steps to do so, and I can even show you. I don't want to confuse you at all, but this is one of our turkey hot spots right here. One of the spots we hunted this year. So this is all set up for turkeys. We still have a little bit left of the season. But this whole field that you can see burned out is going to be switchgrass. It's already been frost seeded. I've killed this a couple times with simazine and then glyphosate. And we'll start mowing here when the weeds are up and the switchgrass is up more. And we'll control these weeds by mowing 1 to 2 times this year, maybe 1 to 2 times next year, and then we'll let it go and have pure switchgrass. But this will allow us to walk into the stand location and not spook the deer. So timing for the tree stand. Notice I haven't talked about setting up the tree stand yet. We've planned this location well in advance by adding about a 1/4 acre of switchgrass here, maybe even a 1/2 acre. 1/3 of an acre is about what it is. So we're adding this so we can get in and out of here without spooking deer. On the inside, step 2, we need to make shooting lanes down to the trail. You can see the hole right down there. We need a shooting lane there, we need a shooting lane right there, and we need one over here. I like those 3 shooting lanes in thick brush. I'm not clearing a lane right to this tree. I'm just making a hole so I can shoot those locations. Deer comes through hole 1, you shoot them in hole 2 or 3, and vice versa. So that's critical. We do that early in the year because that is something that the deer need to get used to. We can't come in here and cut this in September or late August and expect the deer not to have an aversion to that. Towards the end of June, first part of July, we can clear those shooting lanes at any time right now. Like I said, we already established the switchgrass. We have our hidden access screening to get into the stand. We'll cut shooting lanes, and a lot of times we're doing that early, May, June. And then the end of June, we need to have that mock scrape in place, and we're already starting to put some of those out. But I need to put a mock scrape right down here, and I need to put a trail camera on it. I want the deer, if there's any aversion to that for any way, which I don't see that, but that's in the interior. That's where we're gonna shoot deer. So I have to be very careful in there. I wanna get that trail camera in there, mock scrape set up, the shooting lanes cleared. We have the switchgrass planted here. And then the last thing I do is when it gets into August, early September. Our season starts and begins about mid-September. A stand like this, I'll check the footage. If, for example, if we have Venti, one of the big target bucks we're after this year, if he's hanging around here at that time, then I'm not going to come in here early September and put the stand. I'll probably do it in the third week of August, middle of August, so that there's about 3 or 4 weeks for this area to settle down before we actually start hunting. But when I'm just throwing the stand in here, it's not really doing much. I've already planted the switchgrass. I'll have already put a mock scrape in there, a trail cam location. I'll have my shooting lanes cleared months before that time. So the last thing to do is throw in a stand. And this year we're going to be blessed with a few of the large double tripod stands that sell from Family Traditions from Jack Turner over in Michigan. They're USA made, everything, but we're going to be able to put that tripod stand in this location. We'll notch out these branches on the back side so that the stand can fit right behind here. We'll clear a couple shooting lanes out of this tree so that we can shoot these 3 lanes down in the woods. And the last thing to do is to actually set the stand, not the first thing. We can just throw this up. It's going to be a non-event. We're not getting down there into that trail at that time. We'll probably have a cell cam in that location because I don't even want to walk down there. It's too thick to get in that location without leaving our scent somewhere on a stray branch or tree or whatever it might be. The camera's not going to spook deer. We'll have that at 6 feet high. It'll be on a tree that's wider than the camera. It'll be focused on a mock scrape. When the bucks come through, in general, the deer, they'll be focusing on that licking branch. They stare at that, not us in a tree stand, and certainly not the camera nearby. So it's a great diversion when those bucks are coming in. But bottom line is, we'll be installing the stand as the last step in this location, not the first. And I see a lot of people do it the other way around, where you're putting a stand in early, whether it's a tree stand, a tripod stand, even a deer blind. You're putting that early, and if it's a stand or blind or location where you can get that stand in and the deer don't see it and it's hidden, that could be one of those last things you do. We actually installed one of our rednecks last year. It was a stand or blind in August, and Diane ended up shooting her first archery buck out of there, vertical bow, and then also a shotgun buck, both under 30 yards. And we had almost all of our mature bucks visit that scrape in and around daylight hours in that location. The blind was hidden enough. It was a redneck. It was behind a red cedar. You can get away with so much with a red cedar. And we have this same scenario taking place across the farm, across the field over there. We're installing a few of these nice tripod stands because we're taking advantage of these red cedar locations. You let people say, what's the best kind of stand to use? And we actually have a video about that. But you're matching it to the conditions here. No tree stand opportunity, but great spot for a tripod. I wouldn't put this tripod back in the open hardwoods where I want to be up into a stand a little bit higher and blend in with the tree a little bit better. So you let the conditions tell you, but it doesn't matter. Clearing the shooting lanes, working on your access, your screening, getting the mock scrape, trail camera, water hole. If you have a water hole in that location, get those installed. And what you'll find is the last thing you should be doing is installing the tree stand. You can just throw it in, get it done. And what's cool is a lot of times we're planting in August, but that takes place over a few days. So once we've completed our planting, we have quite a bit of time for shooting our bows and hanging some stands. So it's a great time to do so at that time. And it's not to say we don't hang some stands during the middle of the year, but as far as timing goes and what we have to do as an activity each month, perfect combination when you're looking at installing your actual tree stands and blinds, especially when they're hidden, especially when you're using low impact, high quality stands like we do and I suggest you do. You can get those in at the last minute and still have great success. Been doing it that way for decades. It's a great timing for when to get those tree stands in, and maybe not just when to get your tree stands in, but to help you balance all the work and chores that you have towards your deer hunt for this fall. I'm excited to tell you guys about my latest web class. It's how to plant food plots, how to design your food plot program, and it covers everything. And really, there's 30 videos, over 10 hours, 11 hours of footage, workbook, hats, all that stuff on top of it. I urge you to check out the link. But I cover 5 main areas: critical food plot concepts, where to plant, how to create, what to plant, and finally how to plant. It takes you through that step by step so you can make your own decisions that apply to you and build a great high quality food plot program this year, whether you have decades of experience or no experience at all.